Welcome to Sketchy OChem. It's move-in day at Sketchy U, which means time for tearful goodbyes from the parents and lots of awkward icebreakers with classmates whose names you'll never remember. And speaking of remembering names, the first thing we need to do before we get into the world of organic reactions is introduce the language of organic chemistry, naming conventions. We're going to name molecules, so when you see something like this, you'll be able to look at the structure and confidently say that it's hexane 1,2,3,4,5 pentol. Its common name is fusitol. I remember people saying this a lot back when I took orgo, but they pronounced it differently. And, now that I think about it, maybe they weren't talking about this molecule. We're going to focus on the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, or IUPAC, naming system. And would you look at that? This moving company is named IPAC-UPAC to symbolize IUPAC. The IUPAC conventions are a set of rules that govern the universal names of organic molecules. These full rules are long and complicated, but we're going to simplify them to 5 rules that should cover most molecules you'll encounter. Let's get started on rule number 1. The first thing we'll want to do when naming this or any other organic molecule is find the parent chain of carbons, which you can remember by this chain of parents unpacking the moving truck. The parent chain always contains the highest priority functional group in the molecule. Any atom or group of atoms attached to the main carbon chain is considered a functional group, or a substituent. How do you know which one is highest priority? We'll actually get to that in a bit, but once you know what that highest priority group is, then the longest carbon chain that includes that group is the parent chain. This carbon's longest chain is 4 carbons, and that actually lets us start building the name of this molecule. A 4-carbon chain with no double bonds or super special functional groups, we'll get to all those later too, don't worry, is a butane, and that's going to be the end of the name of this molecule. There can be a tie in longest chain length, of course, which means there are tiebreakers, a long list of them. But to call out just the first tiebreaker, since it'll handle the vast majority of cases, the parent chain with the most side chains will win out when there are 2 or more of equal length. Think of it like the parent who carries more side chains is your favorite, because less carrying stuff for you. Anyway, on to rule 2. On our example molecule, the parent chain has 4 carbons. Rule 2 tells us how to number them. Rule 2 says we number carbon chains such that substituted carbons with other stuff attached to them, have the lowest possible numbers. So for this 4-carbon parent chain, we say carbon 1 is the one with 2 chlorines, giving the substituted carbons the numbers 1 and 3. If we started from the other end, those carbons would have the numbers 2 and 4, which are higher than 1 and 3, so the choice is clear. If you look to our literal parent chain at Sketchy U, you'll see that the lowest number parent is this number 1 dad, who has 2 very high priority brats. Children. Now, once we've numbered the parent chain, we're ready for rule 3. Look at each of the functional groups, whatever their priority, and use a prefix to denote how many copies of it there are on the parent chain. The prefixes are di for 2 attached, tri for 3, tetra for 4, penta for 5, and so on. We have 2 chlorines on this molecule and 1 methyl group, so the functional groups are named dichloro for those 2 chloral groups and methyl for the 1 methyl group. When there's just one of a given functional group, there's no prefix at all. Next, we take our functional groups and assign them a number based on which parent chain carbon they're bonded to. This is rule 4. For example, this methyl group is on C3, so we'll call it 3-methyl. Then for substituents that appear in multiples, like dichloro, we actually give it 1 number per substituent, corresponding to each carbon with that group. Here that means we have 1,1-dichloro, since both chlorines are attached to carbon number 1, but if 1 was on the 2-carbon instead, we'd call it 1,2-dichloro. And we've reached rule number 5. Steps 1 through 4 will get us every part of the molecule's name, but we need to make sure those parts are in the correct order. And the correct order is, the highest priority functional group gets the suffix of the name, then all the other ones are alphabetized, just like this clipboard this fellow is carrying in the foreground. And glue it all together, numbers are separated from each other with commas, while numbers are separated from words with hyphens. We do, however, ignore most prefixes during this last alphabetizing step. For instance, because chloro comes before methyl alphabetically, trichloro would still come before dimethyl, for a molecule that includes 2 methyl and 3 chloro groups. The only common prefixes that do get alphabetized are iso and cyclo, as in isopropyl and cyclohexane groups. If it's not one of these two, then ignore the prefix when you're ordering groups in this last step. All right, enough rules. Let's get away from the parents and let the party begin. And by that I mean putting the fun in functional groups. Remember those things I said we'll cover in a bit? Those are coming up, plus much more.